Hi everyone, welcome to today's webinar, which we're going to run on Copilot Agents. So to introduce myself, I'm Jeff Abram. I'm the Modern Work Practice Director at Node 4. I just want to say you could join us all today for this. So in the next 45 minutes, this session is going to explain how Copilot Agents can help you save time each month. By the end, you'll understand what Copilot Agents are, how they function, and how to use them to increase productivity. So what we've got on the agenda, loose agenda today is first going to start with we did a webinar in December, so we're going to hand over to Nick. He's going to do a quick recap of what was covered in that, just so you've got an insight into that if you didn't attend that one. And then we're going to go through sort of a bit of a chat between the team to introduce what Copilot Agents are, what the functionality is, and a bit more in-depth information around them. Then we're going to jump into a demo. I want to say live demo, but they're always massively risky, so I don't know whether Jamie's taking a chance on that, but he's got a good demo planned for us to go through. What Copilot Agents are all about, and hopefully give you some information around that. And then we're going to wrap up the webinar after that demo with some more information on things you'll need to access Copilot Agents and how you can start doing some of the things that we've demoed and talked about in today's session. And then with the time we've got left after that, we'll do a Q&A session, and what we'll do in that, we'll try and answer as many questions as time allows. So if you've got questions, there's an opportunity to submit them in the Q&A chat window within this webinar. If you can get them submitted through, and then we've got one of the team in the background be collating those, and we will go through as many of those as we can at the end of the session. So on to the main stuff. So before we jump in, I'm going to let me introduce quickly my colleagues who are kindly picking up most, if not all, of the proper work on delivering this webinar today. So when I was coming up with this, I thought I could do like the usual boring introductions that you see on webinars, like here's this person, that person, but there's, where's the fun in that? So I wanted to take this opportunity right at the start of the webinar to show you what Copilot can do, and that it can do much more than reply to your emails, and given the right prompts, it can be quite creative. By the way, it's a shameless plug for a webinar we've got coming up in February as well. But what I thought I'd do is I like Marvel films and I love Copilot. So what I thought is I'm going to use those two things to see what happens. Well, this is what happened when I crafted a Copilot prompt to create a Marvel-inspired introductions for the team. So first up, we got deep within the digital laboratories of the multiverse. He builds, he innovates, he tinkers. Some may say he once coded an AI assistant so powerful it tried to negotiate its own salary. With the arc reactor of AI knowledge powering his every move, he's here to take you under the hood of Copilot Agents. Stand back, things are about to get technical with Jamie, the tech titan Holland. Next, you've got with a mind sharper than an AI algorithm and vision clearer than the highest resolution display. She's a beacon of knowledge, a strategist of success, and the ultimate Copilot navigator. Need the best insights on how to harness AI? She's already 3 steps ahead. Bow before the wisdom of Nafisa, the guardian of guidance, Rashid. And then in a world of licensing models that shift like timelines in the multiverse, only one figure can stand between confusion and clarity. With the eye of commercial insight, he deciphers Microsoft pricing structures faster than Doctor Strange reads ancient scrolls. Negotiation strategy deals at even Loki with envy. He's the one making sure Copilot Agents don't just work for you, but work for your business. Give it up for Nick, the commercial commander Lloyd. In the Node 4 multiverse, one figure analyzes and ensures all the questions are answered. Hidden in the chat window, he filters inquiries, detecting crucial ones and emerging at the right moment. Some say he has extensive knowledge, others just see him as an intelligence gatherer. Regardless, he steps forward to ask the key questions, introducing Richard, the watcher of the webinar, Yardi. And of course, I couldn't miss out on an opportunity to see what it thinks about me. So every great team needs a leader. In the vast expanse of the modern work multiverse, one figure stands at the helm, guiding strategy, unlocking innovation, and making sure AI isn't just used, but used right. With the Tesseract, the transformation in one hand, and the playbook of productivity in the other, he leads the charge into a new era of work. Some call him a strategist, others call him a visionary, but today we can call him Jeff, the master of modern work, Abram. So I enjoyed that bit. I enjoyed writing it. I thought it was pretty cool. So now the team's assembled, we're going to drive you into an AI-powered future of work. So over to you, the commercial commander, Nick.
Thanks for that, Jeff. That's amused me greatly. That's for us and the rest of the team. So hopefully quite a few of you were with us in December, where we ran our first Copilot webinar. And if you missed it, then it's available on our YouTube channel, so you can catch up. So some of the areas that we looked at in that webinar was the architecture of Copilot in the Microsoft ecosystem. One of its key USPs is that it has access to your data and it keeps it private, something that can't be said for other solutions on the market. We looked at licensing. You can license it. At the time, it was only available if you licensed on an annual basis. It's now available on a monthly basis, although at a slight premium. Jamie did a demo then of Microsoft 365 Copilot. We're looking at agents today, but there's loads of power within the main solution that sits inside your day-to-day apps like PowerPoint, Excel, and Word. And then we looked at how we can measure success. So it's a significant investment, so we need to see how we can see that it is actually giving a return on investment to the business. We can do that through charts and data that's available within the ecosystem, but also through driving adoption within businesses, which is something that Node4 are currently doing internally as we drive our own adoption. So the world of Copilot is ever increasing. This is just an overview of the productized offerings behind this. Microsoft have got well over 100 internal Copilot solutions that they're developing. So last time we looked at the area in yellow, we looked at Copilot in M365 for apps. And today we're looking at Copilot Agents, was up there outlined in blue. And there's loads of other areas that we're looking at. We've got 2 more webinars lined up. We're going to be looking at security, looking at some more of the areas of apps. So they'll be coming up in the next couple of months. Back to you, Jeff.
Yes. Okay, so yeah, thanks for that, Nick. So that gives us a really good recap on what was covered on the Copilot webinar sort of last month, which, like Nick said, you can go back and watch on our YouTube channel if you want to get the full experience on that one. So one thing I am hearing is that if sort of 2024 was the year that generative AI really started to take off, then 2025 is a year of agentic AI. So I guess, you know, it brings on to today's topic, which is Microsoft's offering around agentic AI, which is Copilot Agents. So we're looking towards the experts here I've got with me in the room. You know, can someone explain to me what Copilot Agents are? Are they different from standard Copilot capabilities we've heard so much about? You know, the stuff we've heard about over the last 12 months.
Yeah, Jeff, I'll pick that up for you. So just to allude on from what Nick and Jeff have already mentioned, Copilot is kind of like it's the new buzzword in organizations, and it's the tool that everyone's talking about. But the question that organizations probably need to ask is, do they understand the true breadth and depth of the capabilities and what the differences are of the different Copilot sort of offerings? Nick mentioned this Copilot's got over 100 sort of layers to it in terms of what technologies it interacts with and how it behaves. But if we take it back to the 2 webinars, the last one and this one that we're looking at the differences in. So the best way to describe it is Copilot for Microsoft 365 it's essentially your virtual assistant. It's there to sort of streamline and innovate your ideas, such as drafting document content or managing schedules. I usually like to refer it as on Jeff's line, it's your goose to your maverick for those Top Gun fans. Whereas Copilot Agents that we're going to be looking at today, that's all around business processes, and Copilot Agents are your business experts in your organization. And agents allow you the opportunity to streamline processes, craft individual processes, and automate flows within the organization, and create those specific tasks or roles within the organization.
It's great. Thanks for that, Jamie. So next, I guess I'm going to look at Unify. So seems like Copilot Agents are like a hot topic at the minute. Every podcast I've listened to recently is focused on them. And I attended a recent Microsoft sellers event over in Dublin. The majority of the keynotes were centered around them. Why do you think this is?
So you're right. Copilot Agents have been getting a lot of attention, and I think it's for valid reasons. In our world of work, there never seems to be enough time to get our tasks completed. I'm always having to work through my to-do lists when in reality, not all the tasks are the best use of my time. So with Copilot Agents, I can now look to automating routine tasks, which means I can focus on real value add tasks. So if you think about someone working in finance, for example, you might have someone that reviews all outstanding purchase orders and then sends out reminders for them to be paid. that could take that person hours to do. Maybe it's something they block out their Monday morning for. Using Copilot agents, however, that work could be automated so that the agent does the work. The agent checks for outstanding purchase orders, chases them, and updates the tracker to show that the client has been chased for payment. Now, this leaves our finance colleagues to work on other value-add activities, such as building relationships with key vendors, to negotiate better terms for the company, thus reducing their outgoings. So we know we can start to automate some of the lesser value tasks, but we can also leverage Copilot agents for real-time decision-making. If you think about a retail manager looking at demand planning, for example, Copilot agents could help the manager by analysing past sales, forecasting future demand by looking at market trends, as well as taking into account supplier lead times and subsequently provide recommendations on which products to restock, how much and when to restock. So even the ordering process could be automated. So we can see from this example that what would have taken quite some time for someone to analyse current stock levels, historical data, trends, etc., can all now be taken care of by Copilot agents, freeing up the manager to focus on other high-value activities. And what we've got to remember as well is that there's flexibility in terms of how Copilot agents are created, from users with no coding experience to developers. So Copilot agents can be created by all users with varying skill sets. So in essence, practically any IT user in any industry, whether that be healthcare, finance, manufacturing, etc., they could all benefit from Copilot agents. And I know this is going to come across a bit cheesy, but there's absolutely no reason for Copilot agents not to be a hot topic.
Cool. Oh, thanks for that. So it seems like quite a lot of people are getting their heads around how they can use Copilot agents already and bring benefits and improvements to their companies themselves. So I guess, Nick, if I can ask you, what sort of benefits are you seeing from early adopters of Copilot?
Thanks, Jeff. That's a great question. So Microsoft have a great case study for a company called Dow, who are a global materials science company based out in Michigan in the US. And they spend billions of dollars every year on outbound shipping alone, a massive company. And that in turn generates over 100,000 incoming invoices that are mainly via PDF each year. So that's been a massive task for the finance companies. Sort of links back to Nafisa's point. So they built a Copilot agent in Copilot Studio that scrapes data from those incoming invoices, puts them into the Dataverse, and then surfaces inaccuracies on a dashboard for the finance team to review. So an inaccuracy might be a difference between a contracted rate and an invoice rate. And that's now, and then that enables a chat interface, a natural language interface for the finance team. They can spot something on the dashboard and start to ask questions of Copilot about that specific invoice, what's wrong with it, what should be the contracted rate, and then start to get in touch with the company that's issued that invoice. And as an industry, a robust freight auditing process generally saves a business 3% on freight expenses. So if you think how much, if a company's spending billions on freight, then that's a significant saving that they'll be seeing.
Yeah, cool. That's great insight, Nick. Thanks for that. So, thanks for all your responses there, Tim. I think it's some really good stuff that people can learn from and take away. But, people have heard enough of us talking for now. I think they want to get into the meat and drink of this and the interesting stuff, which is of course into Jamie's demo. So, Jamie, if you're ready for us, mate.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. I'll take control and share my screen now. Perfect. Yeah, thanks a lot, Jeff. So what we're going to be doing over the next sort of 15 minutes or so is taking you through the journey of creating a SharePoint agent. And we're going to be doing that directly from SharePoint itself. So the scenario that we're going to be showing you today is around a pre-sales team. A team or a department that has regular queries, lots of requirements coming in, and needs to find information relatively quickly and straightforward and simple. So what you can see on the screen at the moment is your typical SharePoint Online environment. We've got document libraries that house documents, forms, and folders. And this SharePoint library is aimed at a pre-sales team. It houses all the documents they need as a team and as an organization. Points to note, Copilot agents have kind of two different layers to them. You've got SharePoint agents, which we're going to be showing today, and you can extend these into the Copilot Studio itself. However, we won't be going into that level of detail in today's demonstration, but what Copilot Studio offers you to do is to integrate and automate processes into that. But what we'll be showing you today is around the SharePoint agents, which offers you quick and effective interrogation of data and insights and returns. So a little bit of an orientation of the screen. Appreciate majority of people may be familiar with SharePoint itself. But on the page, what we've got, we have the list of documents, folders, and libraries present to us with the data that we're going to be interrogating and connecting to. So the first question is how do I create a SharePoint agent? There's two ways you can do that from your screen. You can do that from the top navigation bar where you can see the gold new icon. If we go across to the right, there's a Create Agent button here. We can do it by selecting this, or alternatively, on the top ribbon, we have a Copilot banner, and we'll use that a little bit later on, but we can also create it from here. So to start off, we select Create an Agent. We're doing it, points to note, again, we're directly doing this in the SharePoint site specific. This will create a SharePoint agent for you as a user, but you can share this to your team, individuals, and you can permit access as you wish to this agent. So by default, when we select, it brings up the default agent. If we select edit, what we're presented with now is the key information to create the baseline and the structure of a Copilot SharePoint agent. It's looking for identity information. If we go across the tab at the top, it's looking for sources as to what data you want it to look at. And finally, we'll look at the behaviors tab. This is what is presented to the end user. As you can see, welcome messages, starter prompts, and the actual instructions for the agent. And we'll go through some of those that we've crafted to set up for this demonstration. So I'll take you back to the identity. So what information does it need? So in first instance, we need to give the SharePoint agent a name. How are end users or yourself going to see this agent, and how are you going to be able to identify it? So in this instance, we are in our TechBridge demo environment. So this is going to be our TechBridge demo agent. If you want to provide an image that's relevant to the options, you can do that by selecting image. You can then see in your folders and files as to what imagery you want. And finally, we've got a description. How are end users going to know what this is for? Again, we can provide a description as to what it's for. It provides you an out-of-the-box description. But we're going to say this agent is for pre-sales queries, products, service, and owners. We'll move across to the source information. So the source information is quite critical and key to this experience. So you'll note that it says you can add up to 20 sources for each agent. And what that means is you can add up to 20 sort of sites, as well as documents and folders to pinpoint. So if you wanted to restrict the access to where this agent looks, or expand it beyond the current site that you've got, you can do that. And this is where you do it. You'll note that the pre-sales we are building in the pre-sales environment. So by default, it looks at this environment already for its data, its source, and its folders and files. We can also search for alternative sites if they are relevant to the department, the industry, or if you want them to look at it. An example being, if I search for TechBridge systems, I can also link it to another SharePoint site. I can tell it to look at the entire site, or I can specify documents and libraries that it wants to look at. For the demo purposes, we'll stick to the one site and we'll point it at the pre-sales environment. From there, what we can do is we can, you can see, we can point it at specific document libraries, folders, or files. So again, permission-wise, security-wise, you can restrict it as much as you need to. It could be individual documents, it could be folders, it could be a site. So you can see by default, it brings across the default document library referred to as documents on here. If we click add, it'll give us the option to search the site and locate any other folders or files we want. If I wanted it to look at the sales stack folder, I could add that. And again, it pinpoints and locks it down to those 2 folders specifically. But what I'll do is I'll ask it to search the entire site for the demonstration purposes. Next, what we've got is the behaviors. So this is where it gets a little bit interesting beyond just generic information that you populate, like name and description. So the behaviors tab, again, as a welcome message, it's quite it's personal to the agent itself and what you want to be populated here. And we'll say, welcome to your pre-sales agent. Let's take a look at what you need. Ask me a question. Here, we can provide cards and starter prompts. So it's to get someone started to, these could be frequently asked questions, frequently carried out tasks that you need. And this is where you can provide these upfront questions or functionality. But as you can see here, by default, you need a minimum of two prompts to start. So I'll provide 2 prompts that are specific to the demonstration that we're looking at today. So the first one we're going to say is, what services do TechBridge systems offer? TechBridge is the fictional company that we're providing the pre-sales demo around. And you'll see live as we do that, on the right-hand side, we've got the agent card that will appear. You can then see how that's going to look and feel for the end users going to be using it. We'll provide the second prompt as it's mandatory for 2 as a minimum. What examples do we have services to be delivered? So that is the starter prompts and the starter card to innovate ideas. And this is where you could populate frequently asked questions, frequently asked carried out tasks. So what we're going to look at now is the instructions for an agent. And this is where it gets a little bit more technical. For those who are already using Copilot themselves, whether that be in the M365 world or dabbling in sort of the agents or SharePoint agents world, you'll know that creating the right prompts and providing the right instructions is key and critical to making sure you get the right output. Essentially, the cliche thing of you get out what you put in, this is absolutely true when you're creating the agents. Once you create them, you can adapt them and adjust them if the results aren't quite what you need. So first of all, what we need to provide with a SharePoint agent is what role are you asking this agent to carry out as a task? And as I mentioned before, we're asking it to be a pre-sales knowledge source to gather information, to get quick answers and quick responses. So we're providing it a role of a pre-sales technical expert for the TechBridge M365 services. We're asking it to be concise, direct, friendly, and professional. And we're giving it a task to act as a tutor who will help and learn about the service offerings. As we've touched on there, the second thing we need to do is ask it to do a task job. So what is the agent's task to do? Again, we can explain what it is there to do. It's to help the team understand what products and offering in practice it can do, and it can suggest follow-up questions to help them further gain the information they need. Next, we're going to provide it a set of rules of what they need to do. So these are the key building blocks as to what information you need to capture within this instructions of an agent. So we want to provide the rules. So we're asking the responses must be aligned with the information from its source and not be generic or take things from the internet and what is found, etc. We're asking it to only provide factual information that is contained within its source. And when we go to the sources tab, we've pointed it at a specific document library. So only things in that document library will it take its information from. We're asking it to use technical language and formatting, and it should refer to any existing examples that the organization has on clients or solutions. So again, that's a quick whirlwind of what instructions you need to provide to the agent. So the key building blocks to this are: what role do you need the agent to conduct? What are the tasks you're asking the agent to carry out? and what rules does the agent need to abide by? And these are the 3 key building blocks to creating a SharePoint agent. What I can do now I've created it, if I can select save and it will create the agent for me. You'll also notice I mentioned that you can have the ability to interact with agents in the Copilot Studios environment. You can do that by selecting the Add Advanced Customization to Studio. Once you select this, you can only edit the agent in the Copilot Studio environment, so it's a one-way journey with doing that. However, in this instance, in the demo, we're going to stay within the SharePoint environment and offer it as a SharePoint agent. So we'll select save on this. It takes approximately 5 to 10 seconds to create that agent, and it's then live immediately for you to view. And you'll notice this agent saved, and it saves under a certain location. So what that does, it allows us to see and use the agent in other areas. So you'll notice now in my documents library, it's created the agent for me. TechBridge_demo agent is the one we just created. Here, with this agent, you can share with people. As you kind of file, you can copy links and integrate it into Teams. And we'll show you how to do that in a moment. But the first thing is we've created the agent now, but how does the user interact with that agent? And how does it look and feel for them? So as I mentioned, there's 2 ways of creating agents. You can select the top navigation bar, or on the top SharePoint taskbar, you can do that from here. If we open the Copilot ribbon from the top SharePoint bar, we have a side menu that offers all the agents that are available within the SharePoint site. So you'll see there are some agents here. We have TechBridge, pre-sales agents, and pre-sales. What you will notice is an additional page. So the agent I've just created isn't there. What do you have to do in that instance? You provide a refresh on the page, and that then it will load it for you. So when we go into our agent, you can edit any of the fields that are available for you. You can identify the source, you can adjust your URLs from where you're pointing it, and behaviors. But as I mentioned, once you integrate into Copilot Studio, you then can't edit the agent from here in SharePoint. You have to go to the Studio's admin center and libraries to do all of that. But Copilot Studios offers you individual process flows similar to the experience of Power Automate, etc. You can create those customized flows, and that's where you'll do that. So what we'll do now we've created it, that is your Copilot agent created, but you will have to do a test and adjust, make sure it's bringing out the right information you need, and adjust those instructions and prompts that are relevant to you. So we'll start off by using one of the card options. What services does TechBridge Systems offer? When I select the card, it brings up in my Copilot agents menu, we'll hit send, and it will return the information. Don't forget, we've provided instructions to only look at the document library that we are working in. So again, what services does TechBridge Systems offer? But with Copilot, you need to treat it as a 2-way conversation. We'll ask the second prompt and see what we provide out of it. Oh, you can see there, it's still looking for its information, so apologies. So here, what Copilot's done, and it's offered us an insight into some information and services that it offers. We've got the Office applications, we've got Exchange Online, and we've got SharePoint Online, and all the other offerings. If we hover over it, we'll notice it gives us 3 reference points as to where it's found all that information. And they're all identified and located within this SharePoint environment. So we now ask the question, okay, what services do we offer? It's a pre-sales agent. So I'll ask it a specific question now based on a question that I've got based on the current client I'm working with. So I'll say, I'm working with a small organization who requires to rebuild their intranet. Is there something we can help with? Based on the service and offerings documents and potentially previous case studies, it will return us that information and saying, yeah, absolutely, we can help with that. It provides examples of what we can do. And and provides that generic information. So, okay, we can offer that service of an internet build, but my next question is, have we done it before? And how can I find that information? So I'll ask it a question of, can you list the examples of where we previously delivered that? Again, it's looking and trawling through the information of the sources that we specified. And okay, it's found some case studies. We've delivered it for 2 clients so far. So, okay, we've looked at client X, where we've redesigned their intranet and created a modern platform, and client Y, where we've implemented a new solution. And we've also got client Z. So it's identified 3 different case studies where we can do that. So, okay, we offer the service, we've done it before, but in the organization, who do I need to go to, or where does this offering sit? Depending on your organization size, you may know this, you may not. So we'll ask it, well, what practice does this come under? Again, you'll notice that that prompt is a very generic request, but with Copilot, they ask you not to change subjects immediately or do a U-turn, because again, it understands what the conversation history is, so treat it like a 2-way conversation. So from my prompt asking which practice does it sit under, it tells me that internet solutions fall under the web collaboration practice. Okay, well, my next question is, and it offers us the services, okay, where have you found that from? If I take a look, we've got the 365 service offerings, and we can take a look at the web-based collaboration platforms, and intranets falls under here. So it's provided us with the correct information. So my next question is, who is the main contact for this service? Who do I need to contact to start inquiring, whether that be a statement of work, just a streamline or pass ideas through for requirements? I'll ask the agent the question. So it's saying that within the web collaboration practice, the 2 main contacts are Jamie Holland and Nafisa Rashid. So from here, direct, you can get linkage to the documentation, as we just loaded previously. But what you can also do in the documentation is you can link direct and attach if it's an internal source. So from here, I can open the chat, link it to an email direct from here. You can email direct within your options. So what else can you do with this agent? Obviously, we've taken a look at it within the actual SharePoint environment, but do you have to come to SharePoint to use it? And the answer to that is no. You can also introduce SharePoint agents into Teams. For those of you who do or don't know, obviously Teams, the backbone and architecture of Teams is SharePoint, and you can interlink it within conversations and text. So we'll show you how to do that now as a high-level overview. So one of the agents that we've created today, how do you do that? You can copy the link. You can copy the links as relevant. You can go into your Teams environment, and what you can do is, here's one I've set up and demonstrated earlier, is you can interlink, you copy the link into the chat, and you can paste it as an agent into a chat. And here you can see the TechBridge agent I've integrated with a personal chat that I've got with another colleague in the environment, because I'm going on leave and this person is going to be covering some of my work or clients in the meantime. So I've linked the agent. I've said, hi, Stu, I'm on leave for next week. I'll have to update my current projects. If anything comes up for my clients in my absence, TechBridge agent will be able to assist with your queries. From here, you can message the agent direct, both yourself and the other person, simply by commenting an @ You can search the TechBridge agent, and this now tags that agent in, and you can ask questions direct from here, as we did in the SharePoint environment. And in terms of sort of a a sort of 15-minute whirlwind stop. That is kind of it from my point in terms of showing you within the 15 minutes and talking around how SharePoint agents can be created very quickly, and what are the key ingredients to creating an agent. And we've discussed there, we provided a role, we provided tasks it needs to carry out, and also its source of documents. But yeah, that's it from the demonstration side of things. Jeff, that's back over to you.
Oh, thanks for that, James. Great demo. Give us a lot of insight into the capabilities and a lot of information. And I guess we can publish that information out as part of the webinar afterwards for people to, because there's a lot of information there for people to snap out, and we can sort of publish that afterwards. So I guess what we're on to now is, you've talked about it, you've seen how it can do it, you've seen the things it's capable of. I guess the next thing is how are you going to get, how can you get your hands on this stuff, start playing with it? How can you get access to these Copilot agents and so on and so forth? So I guess, one of the things, I go back to the team. So I guess, Jamie, you've done the demo, but I'm going to start with you. So you've been working with a number of Node 4 clients, ensuring they're in a good position to start using Copilot agents. What sort of things do organizations need to start thinking about when they're considering bringing in Copilot agents into their organization?
You're on mute, Jamie.
On mute. Oh, he's the first one to do it.
Apologies for that. So Copilot, obviously, as a backbone, it is a Microsoft product. So there are some organizations who operate outside of the Microsoft boundaries, whether that be Google, etc. So first and foremost, you need to be operating within the Microsoft 365 environment, and that consists of having the core backbone of the Entra ID, previously known as Azure Active Directory, and having the 365 accounts and licensing to operate that. But following that, there are some things that organizations would need to look at. The base requirement sort of is making sure that you have the infrastructure to purchase the relevant licensing, which we won't go into so much detail in this question, but you also need to look at your information protection. So where does your data reside? How is it accessed? And that could be things around role-based access, your data repository and permissions to SharePoint and Teams. And again, the information protect piece around sensitivity labels and data loss prevention. We mentioned a lot of words there around certain things to look at, but in terms of all the specialties that we look at, Node 4 can offer those within a modern work practice. And there are tools and services available, such as Copilot readiness assessment, where we can look at your environment and make sure you are ready to use those tools.
That's great. Thanks for insight on that. So I guess, you mentioned around security of data. People get super nervous about oversharing stuff. Sort of looking at the team, Nafisa, probably looking for your direction. People are always worried about oversharing information, especially when it comes to sensitive stuff within the companies. How can you deal with things like oversharing?
So, having worked with clients over the years, I can completely understand that concern. However, Microsoft have the necessary safeguards in place to ensure that by using Copilot, there isn't an enhanced risk of oversharing. So just like your current Microsoft 365 data resides within the geographical boundary that was selected for your Microsoft 365 environment when it was first set up, in the same way, Copilot respects that data boundary, so your data will never leave your tenant as a result of using Copilot. And it's also worth mentioning that Copilot respects global privacy regulations. So if we think about the EU, for example, the general data protection mandates that personal data must be stored and processed within certain constraints, and actually Copilot adheres to that. Another important point is that company data is never used by Microsoft to train the underlying large language models that are used by Copilot. So again, your data is protected. And finally, Copilot agents access data through Microsoft Graph. So they only ever use information that users have permissions to access. If a user doesn't have access to some content, that's not going to change with them using Copilot agents. Users are only ever going to see the content to which they have permissions. So to summarize, companies really don't need to worry that Copilot is going to result in an oversharing of their information. However, companies might need to do some work in making sure that they have the correct governance in place to ensure that users don't already have access to content they shouldn't have access to. And there are measures in place that can help, such as the Copilot readiness assessments that Jamie's just mentioned, that allow organisations to review their current posture and areas that they might need to look into further.
Oh, that's great stuff. Thanks for that insight. So we've covered information, covered like sort of the prep around stuff. So I guess, you know, Nick, being our commercial expert, commercial hero, I guess I'll be looking at you to, you know, talk about what sort of licensing, you know, we need to consider and what's the sort of cost involved.
Thanks, Jeff. Another great question. So Copilot agents are charged, the use of them is charged on a consumption basis, and it's based on how many messages you use. And then there are different message rates depending on the sort of answer it's coming back. So the messages you send, you ask of Copilot, there's no charge for those. But the messages that come back, there is a charge, and they're charged at different rates. So a classic answer might be more like just a web query. Generative answer is where Copilot has to think about it a bit. And then it ramps up where if it's looking at data in your graph API and your environment, then that's tenant graph grounding. That's 30 message rate messages per answer. And autonomous actions. So we talked about potential to do things on your behalf, send emails, schedule meetings, that sort of thing. Then there's another rate for those. And then there's 3 different ways to purchase those messages. When you're getting started, there's a pay-as-you-go rate, which is done on consumption via an Azure subscription. So that's slightly less. It's 1 cent per message, rounded up to a penny per message. And those agents done in that way can be used internally and externally. So they can be public-facing agents potentially via your website. Message packs. So they come in blocks of 25,000 per month, and that's just over £150 per month. But then also, if you're licensed for Microsoft 365 Copilot, then you've got unlimited messages, but the where they can be used is limited. They can't be external. They're only internal to your company and through the Microsoft 365 experience.
Cool, thanks for that, Nick.
Right, Jeff.
Yeah, go on.
Before you carry on, I'm going to ask you, you've been asking us all these questions. I think it's only fair that we do the same to you. I'm going to ask you a question. So, how can Node 4 support organisations on their journey into adopting AI?
First thing they could have done is give us an agent to keep us on time on this webinar, because we're sort of running out of time pretty quickly. But as long as people stay around, we're keen to carry on and get through content. We're nearly at the back end of it now. So that's one thing we could have done better as a team. But in terms of an organisation, we're supporting all of our clients on a what we call a 5-stage journey. You know, each client can put themselves on somewhere on this journey position in terms of where they are on their journey. So when, you know, briefly, envision is where someone is, you know, someone's contemplating getting Copilot. They're not sure whether they want to invest the money in it. They don't know whether it's going to benefit their organisation. So we can support them in helping them see what that looks like for their organisation and whether it's a worthwhile investment. Then when someone, you know, we go into plan, which is when someone has then, you know, they've decided we want to invest in this. We want to, you know, put some money into this. So we can then come in and make sure that the environment and the people within the environment, which is also critical, are ready for this technology. So making sure that things like all of the data security is in place, but also making sure that your workforce have got the skills necessary to be able to use the technology that you're going to invest all this money in. Build phase is, you know, that is dependent on what the organisation is. They've now got it, you've got it implemented. They've got the licenses activated. What is it they want to use? What is it they're trying to achieve? Are they trying to make process efficiencies? Are they just using it as general chatbots? That's where we sort of earn, you know, our bread and butter, if you like, as a consultancy. That's helping people, you know, visualize and realize those visions. The adopt phase is massively key. You know, you can invest all of this money, throw this technology into your environment, and people use it for 2 days, and then they go, that's great, and I didn't really get any use out of that, and they forget they've got it, and then you're sat with, you know, a massive cost every month. So the adopt phase is key to get people into the habits of using this, knowing that it's a tool and understanding the value of that tool within their role. And that's something we can help with in terms of an adoption framework we're running. And then the innovate phase is, you know, all of that's done now. The business is using it. It's making sure you're continually pushing the boundaries of what it can do. You know, Microsoft's continually releasing features week in, week out with things. It's making sure that you're aware of what those features are. You're communicating those features out to your sort of power user communities and taking advantage of all of those. So I say, that hopefully, that gives some insight into how we can support. So I guess, we're sort of getting towards the end of this. We've probably gone a bit over time, but I just want to have a look and speak to Rich. Rich, is there any questions in here that people have submitted during this that we want to throw at the team?
Yeah, we've had a couple of questions, Jeff. The first one, a client say, we do have a Microsoft environment, but our data is shared with other parties such as DWP. This is not held in Microsoft. How do we get Copilot to work in a non-Microsoft environment?
Anyone?
So I think that, so one of the benefits of agents is we looked at the different licensing models. If you're using Copilot Studio to licensing model, then that can talk to third-party systems. So it's not just limited to data that's in your environment.
Cool. Second question, is there a checklist of behavior for the SharePoint agent to help understand what multiple of behavior the agent has capacity to do, i.e. most popular usage of SharePoint agent?
So I'm
Jamie.
not.
Go on.
I'm sorry, go on, Jamie.
No.
Okay, I was going to say I'm not aware of a particular checklist for behaviour, but I would say from my experience, the most popular usage has been, as Jamie showed there, I've used it myself, to be honest, to interrogate documents within SharePoint libraries. To go through the content in there. You could have libraries with thousands of documents in there, and you've not got time to go through and interrogate all of those, but you can use the agent to go in and find answers to your questions really quickly, because it can go through all of those documents. And then obviously you've got the abilities to go in and click in to those references and open up the relevant documents for you. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I think wider than that as well is a general guide on how to get the best from agents and what other people are using it for. I think there's just somebody yesterday, and I think there's a site, and someone will quote me on this and tell me I'm wrong, but adoption.microsoft.com, they're continually updating their website, Microsoft, with examples of how their clients are using Copilot and Copilot agents effectively with referenceable prompts on there and stuff. And I think there's something as well, Nick, that you've used, Prompt Buddy.
Yeah, so Prompt Buddy is a plugin for Microsoft Teams based on the Power Platform that allows a business to capture all the prompts that are being used across the business and start to gamify the creation of those prompts, and to create leaderboards and to share prompts, because that's what it all comes down to, is generating good prompts to get good information, and to capture all that is really useful.
Cool. Rich, anything else, or are we?
There's no more questions on the chat, Jeff.
Good, that's good, because we're way over time. So thanks for those of you who are still hanging around, and we're 4 minutes over. So what we'll do, let's wrap up here, and I want to thank the team who've supported me today and done most of the work, if I'm honest, on today's webinar. You can find all the team on LinkedIn. Reach out to any of us if you've got any questions, you want to follow anything from this, you want to ask about upcoming webinars, anything at all, you want to tap into what expertise we've got or how we can help you in your organizations better, give us all a shout on LinkedIn. We're all pretty active on there. Obviously, I'd like to thank you all attending. I hope you enjoyed the session. And I'd say just a quick reminder as well that we've got 2 more webinars coming up over the next couple of months. The first one, Wednesday 26th, which is going to be focused around Microsoft 365 Copilot and giving you an insight into how it can be used in a more effective and innovative. Everyone uses it to reply to emails. They use it to summarize the calendars. Well, I hope you all are, because if you're not, try that as well, because that's pretty useful. But it's using it outside of those core activities about, helping you be more innovative and maybe spot some things you've not thought of yourself and question the way you're doing things and maybe suggest better ideas. So that's one we've got coming up. And then we're going to flip outside of Microsoft 365 and look more at the Microsoft Security Copilot with some of my colleagues from within my team that look after security practice within us, and that'll be completely different insight into what all that does. So like I say, thanks again for coming along today. I hope you've all got something useful from it. You've all got something to take away from it. And I say, just once again, I'd like to thank the team for supporting me on this.